Hello to all the participants in the Eli Hurvitz Conference. I'm happy and honored to talk in front of you today, and I regret that I cannot be with you in person. I want to start by congratulating the Israeli Democracy Institute for carrying out this conference, and to the co-sponsors of this panel, Startup Nation Central and EcoPeace. We started this project on climate technologies regional collaborations in the summer of 2023. It seems like ages ago. The horrors of October 7th have traumatized our nation, and the deadly war that is raging for more than 7 months is the longest we've had since our conception. The region has also been under so many dramatic events that it has become difficult to track all the precedents and crises that we have all experienced. In an era in which everything is polarized and politicized, it is extremely difficult to put our minds on what is the true reality. But it is important to find in the chaos around us the fundamental interests, the significant opportunities and threats, that we can carve our policies and focus on the right things. The fact of the matter is that the leadership of the region has so far acted in a surprisingly constructive way towards Israel. Although the fundamental sentiment on their streets is clearly solidified against us. The civilian death toll in Gaza, though exaggerated, and the deteriorating humanitarian crisis, though amplified and manipulated by Hamas, these set the tone in the media and on the Arab streets. Unfortunately, these have fueled an anti-Israeli sentiment not only in the region, but in almost the entire liberal world, especially in younger age groups who feed on social media and consume echo chamber propaganda. This is becoming a real existential threat for Israel, as growing numbers feel legitimized to question our bare right to exist as a Jewish state, while overlooking Israel's right to defend itself against the brutality of Hamas, who so viciously attacked our communities. It is odd that the pressure exerted on Israel from the regional leaders seems at times lesser than that of the Western liberal European countries and by the progressive voices in the US. In my opinion, there are several reasons for that, and acknowledging them is key to harness the potential for any regional collaboration. First and foremost, the region understands the dangers of extremism very well. The rise of Al-Qaeda after 9/11 and its roots in radical madrasas, the Arab Spring that ended up empowering the Muslim Brotherhood's political power, the rise of ISIS that covered the region with hate and fear, and most of all, the Iranian revolutionary regime that continuously poisons states until failure, fosters militarized proxies, and state-sponsors terror on a global scale. The pragmatic Arab countries understand their need to push back on extremism, not for Israel's sake, but for their own national security interests. The Gulf Cooperation Council, the GCC, have published a few months ago their regional security vision, a remarkable document that calls for halting all political and financial support for terror organizations. They further condemn maritime insecurity, cyber and political threats throughout the region. They didn't mention Iran by its name, but they've called out everything Iran does to endanger them. Israel wasn't mentioned by its name as well, but there was also no condemnation or even a mentioning of the war in Gaza. All they called for is the implementation of the Arab Peace Initiative. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, even Qatar, they all signed this document. The second reason is that in parallel to pushing against threats, these pragmatic countries understand that their prosperity and economic diversity is more likely to happen with Israel and the United States on their side. This was a motivation for the Abraham Accords, and it is still valid. The official numbers unfortunately show a retreat in volumes of trade and investment with the Abrahamic partners since the war started. That shouldn't come as a surprise, but note that it hasn't stopped completely, and that many of them are just waiting for an opportunity to resume. Unfortunately, Hamas, backed by Iran, has succeeded in derailing the continuation of the normalization process with Saudi Arabia. I believe it is only a temporary delay, but it unfortunately seems unlikely that this can happen while the current Israeli government is in power with its ultra-right faction dominating its policies. Finally, we have to talk about Iran. April 13th took the entire region by surprise. Iran fired at us hundreds of projectiles, clearly aiming for as much damage and death as they could. That wasn't taken lightly by the countries in the region. The Saudis remember Aramco in 2019. The Emiratis remember their barrages in January and February of 22. But this is nothing like what Iran fired at us, hundreds of projectiles. The reason that attack ended with just one injured child is because of Israel's incredible multi-layered defense systems and because of the military coalition that worked like clockwork in synchrony. The region all saw it and all want it for themselves. That was Israel at its best. Their interest in being on our side does not contradict their will to see the war in Gaza end and the Palestinian situation progress. It will be a mistake to continue thinking, like some have thought for years, that we can promote our relations with the Abrahamic countries and pretend that the Palestinian issue will fade away. October 7th tells us that was a dreadful mistake. But it also doesn't mean that anyone should naively believe that we can just snap our fingers and solve the conflict. It will be way more complicated and longer. But the people I talk to in the region understand that. They don't expect us to fall to a naive trap. They want a horizon of hope, prosperity, and stability. And I believe we should and can find a way to do that without jeopardizing our own security. While in the near future we will rise from our devastation, it will be our major dilemma. Would we isolate ourselves and reject all these opportunities, fulfilling the dreams of the extremists, both in our societies and theirs? Or do we find the strength to shape up, harness our capabilities and collaborations with the region and thrive? I choose the latter. I'm confident we can achieve it and through it bring new hope to ourselves and to the region. Thank you.